I'm going to show you what my compost system is. It's the best one I found, the least amount of effort for the most amount of results. So we put everything into this container. My husband, who's grossed out by compost, likes this container. It's easy to clean. You put the lid down. Right now it needs to be taken out. I'm not going to take it out yet. I want to show you what the compost bins look like. So here we have the compost bins. They're just trash cans. I put some holes in the side, small ones, so that little bugs can get in and out, and the air can get in and out, but no rodents. I didn't want any rodent infestations. And unfortunately the lids blow away in storms, so I have some things to hold it down. The smaller rock is the one that I use. The bigger one is the one that's sitting there waiting. And I thought I could do a two bin rotation. I was wrong. It takes a little bit longer, but again, there's no rotation in this system, as in like mixing up the dirt. It's just a lot of letting the biology sit and do its thing. And in winter, there's not a lot of biological activity, so what happens is I need plenty of bins in order to compensate for my lack of activity. So I'm going to open up the bins. Excuse my poor photography here. So this one's been sitting for about a month, and you can see it's kind of gotten a little bit lower, and there's still a lot of browns that need to be digested. I could probably throw the compost that I just had in on this, and it would help speed it up. This one's the one I've been working on. You can see there's flies in there, a lot of biological activity. This is apple season, so you're seeing a lot of more greens than browns. And yeah, there's some wasps that like coming in and out. I don't know how they get in, but that's how that works. So what I'll do is I'll take the, I'm rotating the bins today, so I'm going to take a bin that, here, this has been sitting for about 5 months, and this was literally books that my daughter was sick and she threw up on. So you can see it's gone down significantly. I'm going to actually refill that. Just removed the bins, and I wanted to show the biological activity over here and the soil fertility improvements. This area is right under my, right next to this wineberry bush. There's a mulberry over in that area. There's the oak tree and the maple tree over there. So this area doesn't have a lot of fertility. This is basically eaten up by the trees. We had a sewage issue where the trees were surviving off of our sewer system, and unfortunately, living in the city, that's not good, especially when it would back up into our house. So this provides an alternative source of nutrition for the trees to continue to exist. And you can see over here, I've got some new oak seedlings coming up for Compost trees and a sunchoke fallen. I'm experimenting with in this location as well. So this is the corner of the yard where I keep them when I'm just waiting for them to ferment, to be done. And you can see over there, look how, you still have the corn cobs. We were very liberal with what we throw in the compost bin. Figure the more time, the better. And I don't mind throwing under my trees some corn cobs and eggshells. I think that's perfectly fine to have that mulched under there. But you can see that it's pretty much done what it needs to do all on its own. I'm going to actually leave this until probably another month or two, until the fall has really fully hit, and then I'm going to dump this under the trees with some other ones and let it sit in the outside over winter, and then I'll fill up these bins during winter, let them sit again till next fall. And you can see it's also gone down significantly. So if I was like, oh no, I'm running out of room, I could throw in some more stuff, as long as I'm okay with whatever that stuff is being not fully composted by the time I want to throw it out in the garden. So this here is compost that I had put out 6 months ago, and you can see the eggshells, you can see the avocado peel, and that's about it. You see the rodents coming up and checking out the garden over there too. So really, I would say it's a little bit gross when it's first put out because it's been fermenting. And this is actually before I put more holes in the bins since this happened, because the more holes, we're a very wet climate, so it wasn't draining nearly enough. In fact, in spring, groundwater level is it's squishy. It's at 0 over here. So the bins were a little bit wetter than I wanted, so I put some more aeration holes to keep them a little drier. And so this is another area I put some compost. This was a little bit fresher than I wanted, because I had just been running out of space, because I use kitty litter in this. Kitty litter is not recommended. It's because of the feces. It's not human safe, but I'm actually not growing any sort of vegetables here. I'm just prepping the soil. Another 6 months I'll be able to plant here. I'm slowly converting this to sort of a permaculture, intensive urban farming type systems, but it takes time, so I'm just using the compost I have in places where I can soil prep. This, other than the corn, this garden was basically some compost I put out in the middle of winter, and the tomato seeds were still good, the squash seeds were still good, and I used to not be able to grow hardly anything here, and it worked just fine. I didn't even remember I did that until all of a sudden I saw the squash and the tomatoes. I said, you know what, I bet you I incorporated some compost over there. So this over here, oh shoot, can't even really see it. Under there, where I've been throwing my plants, there's also some compost. You can't tell it's even there, because that's also my weed throwing pile. I don't bother moving the weeds into the compost bins because they do quite well as mulch in the chop and drop system. So that's the compost system. I've seen lots of other systems. I've tried different systems. This one works the best for me because I'm busy. I don't have time to sit and rotate things. I don't want anything too heavy. These are I can lift on my own, and I can also use a dolly to move them around, which I think you might have seen over there. And I want something that my husband, who's not interested in the grossness compost, will actually be able to go and do, and taking that container and dumping it into one of these bins. It's right across from the house. It doesn't seem to attract any extra wildlife that I don't want, because it's all enclosed. There's only big enough holes for bugs to get in and out, and so it works for us. It is not a hot compost system, and some people would scoff at it. But if you're urban homesteading and you don't have time to mess with the fine details of composting, and you just want to be able to put your organic waste in a place where it can be reused by the land, and so you don't have to buy more fertilizer, definitely this is what's worked for me.